Welcome to our Teen and Parent webinar series, where we explore one of the most important journeys families face together: understanding the teen brain, the risks of addiction, and the power of healthy communication. Adolescence is a time of rapid growth and change, physically, emotionally, and neurologically, and these changes can sometimes make it hard for parents and teens to connect. In this series, we'll break down the science of the developing brain, discuss how substance use impacts decision-making and long-term health, and provide practical tools for strengthening communication and building resilience at home. Today, we have Dr. Donald Reed from the McDowell County Hope Coalition and Mr. Cliff Adkins from Clear Story Counseling.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Donald Reed from the McDowell County Hope Coalition. Thank you for joining this Hope Coalition webinar. With us today, we have Shanita Evans and Mr. Therapist Cliff Adkins from Clear Story Counseling. Today, we are going to talk about teen mental health. Across our communities, more and more young people are carrying heavy emotional loads: anxiety, depression, stress, pressure from school, social media, and everyday life. Today is about understanding their world a little better. It's about listening to their experiences, learning from the experts, and reminding every young person that their feelings matter, their struggles are real, and help is always within reach. We are grateful to have our community partners and parents with us today. And as we lean in, as we learn together, we become stronger, because stronger mental health means stronger futures. I want to give just a little overview of a teen mental health snapshot. There's been a rise in anxiety and depression among teens. Teen mental health statistics show alarming trends, with over 20% of adolescents having a diagnosed condition like anxiety or depression in 2023, and 40% experiencing persistent sadness or hopelessness, as reported also in 2023. Common triggers are often academic pressure, family stress, friendship, relationships, social media, which we talked about last webinar, trauma, and physical changes. Sometimes, as parents or grandparents, even as teens, we may recognize these struggles with different signs. Sometimes withdrawal, mood swings, changes in sleep or eating habits, or just feeling overwhelmed. And there's often we stigmatize help-seeking behavior. Kind of now that we've set the stage for what teens are facing, we want to spend most of our time moving into the questions that maybe young people really want to know, but are not always willing to ask out loud. So, Shanita, we'll turn this over to you and just let you ask some of those questions that maybe teens have on their minds, and we'll let Mr. Adkins give us some answers.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, Cliff.
Good morning, Shanita.
Our first question is, how do I know if what I'm feeling is just stress or something more serious like depression or anxiety?
That's a really good question. We need to look, I think the very first thing to look at is there a stressor? Like, is there actually something happening that would cause stress? And then the second one I would say is, does what you're feeling kind of match the level of what's happening around you? So, for example, like if there's a test coming up, you can be stressing about a test. So you're feeling some kind of way about it. You're not feeling good about it, or you're nervous. It's normal stress, like you would say, like I'm feeling normal about it. I'm thinking about it, but it's not consuming my thoughts. But when it comes to my mind, I may get a little weird feeling in my stomach, or I may have a few thoughts about it, but I'm able to put it out of my mind, even though it might pop back, but I'm able to put it out of my mind. I'm able to distract myself. The feelings that I get aren't overwhelming. But if the feelings start to become overwhelming and they're constant and persistent, and the feelings basically outgrow the stressor. So they're not, they don't match. It's a lot, and you're unable to get it off your mind, and you get stuck in kind of a loop. You get stuck in like a what if loop, and like you're asking yourself a million questions, like what if this goes wrong and that goes wrong, and you're imagining all these scenarios, and now your brain starts to kind of run away, your thoughts run away from you. That becomes anxiety. That's when it starts to turn into anxiety more so than stress. Stress is going to look a little more like what we would call nervous. I'm nervous about this, or I'm nervous about that, but it's not like overwhelming us or overtaking us.
Thank you, Chris. I'm sorry. Thank you, Cliff, for the differentiation in those two. Question two. Sometimes I feel like I have to act okay even when I'm not. How do I tell an adult or someone I trust what's really going on without being judged or feeling judged or being dramatic?
Um, that the reason why I pause so much on that is because I know that this particular question depends on the adults in your life, really. Uh, I often wonder, has anxiety and depression actually risen, or are we talking about it more now? Because I know growing up, like they would say things like, "Oh, that boy's a worry wart," or that, like, and it's like, if you're saying that this kid is all the time worrying, all the time stressed about stuff, that kid probably has anxiety. I mean, if it's like a constant part of their life, it's and but they dismiss so much stuff. Or if you were depressed, it was just like get over it, move on, and you just didn't talk about things. And so we didn't talk about it. So you just didn't talk about it. And I think the same will happen in today's world is if you're surrounded by adults that dismiss the way that you're feeling, they dismiss the things that you're saying, even the little things. Like it's like if if you're a parent or you work with teenagers or have teenagers in your life, you can't just think that you can dismiss or downplay the normal things in their life, but I'm going to step up when it comes to the heavy stuff. The heavy stuff, I'm going to step up and I'm going to be there for them. It's like the little stuff is what lays down that foundation for them to know they can come to you with the heavy stuff. Like it's you got to put in that groundwork first. Um, and so if you're a teenager and you have that adult, I used to tell my students, middle school and high school students, I would say, if you're nervous to come to me and talk to me, come to me and say, what would you say, Mr. Atkins, if I had a friend who was experiencing, or what should I say to my friend who's experiencing? And adults can kind of pick up on that. We see through that, but a lot of times it gives that barrier, even if the teenager knows exactly what they're doing and they know we're in on it, it gives them that cushion as though we're talking to a person who's not necessarily in the room, even though we're talking directly to them. I would tell them to be clear with what they're saying. Take a deep breath before they say certain things because sometimes the emotions can feel so big that we say some wild things that we don't mean, and that we wish we could take back. But once we've said them, it's so I would tell the teenager to pause and the adult to ask questions, but not judgmental questions, but like informational questions. Like we've said in the past videos, you're listening to understand. your teenager but the teenager too, it's not all on them. You should breathe, take a deep breath, and think through what you're saying and try your best to say it as clear as you can.
I like what you said about knowing or having a trusted adult in your life, because I can remember when I was growing up, when you talked about mental health to my grandparents, that was a no-no. You were seen as crazy, and
Mhm.
so you just didn't bring up the subject. So, like you said, it's helpful to have a trusted adult that you can talk to about what's going on in your life. And I
Yeah,
thank
well,
you for that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
What should I do when my anxiety hits in school, in class, lunch, or around friends, and I can't just leave the situation?
That's a great question too, because oftentimes students can't just get up and leave a classroom or just get up and leave the dinner table. And I would always say first, and I didn't say this earlier, if we're having a strong feeling about something, I always tell people in my practice, I say, what's the evidence for that? What's the evidence for that feeling? Because that's huge. Because anxiety, it will latch onto your imagination and create these scenarios that aren't really there. There's no evidence for what you're creating in your mind. And so in a teenager's mind, we've talked about in the past the rejection factor and the fear of other people looking at them. The amount of students that I would have come in and they would be like, so and so's talking about me, and I'd be like, they, yeah, they were just talking about me. They said da da da, and I was like, they said that to you? No, but I could see them across the cap, and they were looking at me, and they were saying something to their friends, and I was like, whoa, like. But they were looking at me, Mr. Adkins, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense that if somebody's looking at you and saying something that they might be talking about you. But our imagination and our anxiety will latch onto that and blow it way up. We'll create stories in seconds in our mind. And so the big thing is if you're starting to feel anxious, is what's the evidence? What's the evidence say? What is actually happening? And that's also good to go to an adult or another person to say, what do you see any evidence of this, or is this all in my mind? This is good for adults to do to each other too, is to say, am I seeing this accurately? So if you're sitting in class though, or you're at work and you're starting to have your anxiety, your heart's starting to race, your breath gets shorter, and your thoughts are racing, there's a technique called grounding. And that is you really tap into your five senses. Like you start, what can I feel? What can I smell right now? What do I see? And you start to essentially what you're doing is you're distracting your brain from those racing thoughts. Because to sit there and be like, stop, 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 stop thinking this, stop thinking, good luck. Like that's not that will not work. Our brains a lot of times like toddlers. Like you just got to distract it. You just got to give it something else because you can't just sit and scream at it and tell it to stop. To not do that, it'll throw a tantrum on you. And so you distract. And what am I feeling? What am I smelling? What am I seeing? And and you feel your desk, you feel wherever you're at work, and you just pause and you just take those few seconds to yourself, even though no one else knows what's happening or going on. You take those moments. It is my experience. I can't speak for every classroom. A lot of teachers now sympathize with this. I would tell students if you are feeling that uneasiness going into a classroom, tell your teacher up front. Just be like, "Hey, I'm feeling unsettled." That way the teacher knows like, okay, probably don't call on so and so. Probably don't like call them out on like leave them be a little bit, kind of back off a little bit. We all know some teachers aren't going to be like that. I get that. But a lot of teachers, they don't want a situation happening in their classroom. So they're going to leave you to yourself or ask you if you need to go talk to somebody. Like, do you need to go talk to one of the counselors or a coach or a teacher that you trust or a principal or something? Or do you need to talk to me if there's, if the teacher's the trusted person, do we need to step outside and talk? I think to go ahead and talk to the teacher at first, because a lot of times when we're feeling that way, we felt the signals early and we just didn't say anything. And then it gets out of control.
How can I help a friend who seems really down or talks about harming themselves without overstepping or making things worse?
As a teenager, that this situation is so severe. It's so severe, I guess would be the word. It's such an intense situation and it matters, so much. I would say go to a trusted adult and say, what do I do if I have a friend saying these things? The reason why I say that, because that's a lot of pressure to take on as a teenager if your friend is saying something like that. And it's serious enough to where, I mean, it's my whole job. I mean, you can go to school to get a degree to talk to people who say things like that. That's how serious it is. Like that people make a living talking to people. That's how serious it is. So to put that on a 15-year-old to like say this is what you say. This is what you say. Now, if there is no trusted adult to brush it off to you're just you have to tell somebody. You have to tell somebody else. You can't. But if you need to say something in that moment, it is to remind them of the good things, remind them of the relationship. If nothing else, if they have nothing else going for them in their lives, because we know some people that hit sometimes where it is hard, even for you as an outsider, to tell them what is good happening because they have so much bad happening in their life. If they have nothing else, they at least have a friend in you that they came and talked to you. So there's at least that one relationship that does matter to them because they came to you with that. I would lean into that and tell them how much they mean to you and how important they are and how thankful you are that to have that friendship and that they matter to you, their value. That's what I would do is to put that value back into them because that's what they're losing. Something in them has told them that their value has dropped or that they don't have value. And so to put that back in them, I think is the way to go.
That is so true to just give them back some of their value. And I can remember you saying in past webinars how friendships are so important at that age group. And it is good to have a friend that you can talk to and to
Yeah.
pour back into your life. And then we have, if I go to counseling, what should I expect? And how do I know if a counselor is the right fit for me?
I would expect it's not exactly like it is on TV or in the shows, but it can be a little bit like that. You'll go in and they will probably give you an intake, something to fill out, some information about yourself so that they kind of have an idea where you're coming from and what the issues that you may want to talk about will be. And you'll probably sit on a couch or sit in a chair, and there will be someone sitting across from you that will start asking you questions, getting to know you. I would say to look for, it depends. Some people want, some people like they want their counselor to use the language, the lingo, and all the words. They like that. They like those words to know what's going on with them. Some people may want a counselor that's more like a coach, that's more direct and more serious and kind of thinks a little more black and white, like just there's not a lot of gray in their world. And then some people may be looking for someone that's more of a friend. They come to you more like a friend. I would say to listen for whatever type you're seeking. And a lot of us have our biographies too on like psychologytoday.com. You can read and pretty well get a feel. We write those. So no one writes that for us. So you can read that and get a kind of a feel for what that counselor may be. I would say the main thing is do you feel like they care? That's something you can't fake. You can't fake that. If you really care about people, and I would say if they really care about you and care about their job and what they're doing and what they're there for, you will probably feel very comfortable with them. Even if their style may be a little different than what you were looking for, if you feel that care from them, it will put you at ease. It will put you more at ease. And most of the time it takes 2 or 3 sessions, probably 3, it maybe even 4 to really feel like you can open up. We know that. That's normal. Yeah, we let the client go at their pace. That's what I would say to look for is the care. Really, like, do you feel that care from them?
And that is so important to know that someone cares about you and what you're going through.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to Donald. I think that was the last question that we had. Thank you, Cliff.
Oh, thank you, Shanita. Yeah,
Actually, there's one more. It says social media makes me compare myself to someone else. How do I protect my mental health when I feel like I have to be online all the time?
yeah. You don't have to be online all the time. That's what I would say. We'll tell ourselves these stories, and I do it all the time in this practice. Somebody will say something, and I'll go, "Why do you have to do that? Why?" And they'll pause and, well, I don't guess I have to. It just feels like I have to. And I'm like, there you go. It feels like you have to. You don't have to be online. And I'm very open about this. I'm not great with social media. That's why I limit it to my business. And I'm very open. If I didn't have a business, I don't think I would be on there. Well, I wasn't. I wasn't on there because I'm not good at that. I'm not good at seeing other people's highlight reels and only their highlight reels. I like real. I want to know what else going on in everybody's lives, and I'll tend to compare their highlights to my reality. And I start to feel some kind of way about it. I hate that about myself. I don't like that about myself, but I'm honest and I'm self-aware enough to be like, I don't need to be on there all the time. And I would say that to a teenager. You don't have to be on there. Don't keep going to something that causes you such pressure and anxiety. Just put it down. It will not help you. If you're stressing out about having friends and your relationships, don't you think being happier and at peace, that's what's going to draw people to you. That's what's going to build on your friendships, not being stressed out and anxious, but knowing everything that's going on because you don't know everything that's going on. That's social media is not everything. It's clips. That is not the full story as to what was going on. I mean, how many people have we talked to will be like, "Oh, I saw your pictures from like when you went to the beach." And they're like, "Oh gosh, like let me tell you about what happened at the beach." And you're like, "I would have never gotten that from those pictures. Those look like great pictures." Um, I would tell teenagers if you're feeling that stress, which they are feeling that. It's not, we're not built to know what's going on in everybody's lives. We're not made for that and sure aren't when we're 14 and 15.
Remind me of the quote that one human is not designed to bear the weight of another.
Yes.
I don't have that exact. Can you say it how you say it?
One human is not designed to bear the full weight of another human.
That is so true. And I want to go back to the phones. Even as an adult, and this is good for teens, sometimes, take a text message. Our brains are wired to instantly respond.
Hmm.
I guess that's a true statement. Or maybe maybe I should rephrase that. We have trained ourselves to instantly respond. but there's nothing that says you have to respond to anything. I find it's sometimes easier for my mental health to not respond to that text message because the drama doesn't continue if you just don't respond. Um, Cutting your phone off after work or after school. Oh my goodness, what a better evening you have
Oh, absolutely.
if you leave your phone alone or you just ignore all the ignore all the messages that come in. Just
Yeah.
a thought.
Yeah, people always, I have my friends, they'll say all the time, how does your, why doesn't your phone ever light up? And I'm like, because I'm very intentional with what notifications I get. Very intentional. I have gone into my notifications in my settings in my phone and set to where I get very limited, like buzzes, very limited. Because because you do feel that pressure.
Mhm.
You absolutely feel that pressure. And that's another reason, and I will throw this in here, and I know I don't want to take up everybody's time too long. Another reason why anxiety and depression is seemingly on the rise is because we are designed somewhere in our hardwiring to do what we are doing right now, to look at each other, to see each other's faces, and interact this way. When we are interacting through text, it's effective and it works. But if that is the predominant way in which we are interacting with all of our relationships and we're not ever seeing each other, we're not FaceTiming, we're not doing anything outside of texting, especially as a teenager, you start to lose that ability to read faces and to read and that creates stress and anxiety. And we all know, I can't tell you how many times I've heard this in my practice. So many times people will be like, I just need a hug so bad. I need a hug so bad. I need physical touch. I need something physical. And turning to a phone, which is what a lot of us do, whether we're scrolling or whether we're just texting, we turn to like a device, an electronic device, to give us that warm, personal that we actually crave. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons. I cannot tell you the amount of times I would walk through the hallways and I would like cut up with a student or like say something. And I remember I started working in the school system in 2007. So the iPhone had just been out or was just created, I think. iPhone, I think, just came out in 2007. And we could cut up, and I would like bust on the kids. They'd bust on me. Like we would go back and forth and we would play. And then I left the school system from 2010 to 2016. When I came back, I would go in the hallways and I like pick at a kid, and they would sit back, and I could see them watching my face to see if I was playing or if I was serious. And I would be like, of course I'm playing with you. Like, what would you? But they couldn't they had lost in those 6 years. I saw teenagers lose that ability to read faces quickly. And I mean, and so me and my brain, I started running experience. I would do that intentionally in the hallways just to see if that was a normal thing, and it became very normal to where they could not read my face. They lost that ability. So, and when you're a teenager, your natural first instinct is to think defense. Defense. Am I about to be rejected? Am I about to be cut out? You must be making fun of me. Is something wrong with me? Is something mad? Like I need to fix that real fast. And so they would immediately jump to that, as opposed to me being kind and loving and just picking at them and being playful. And so I would tell teenagers, FaceTime each other, talk, see each other in the evenings. Don't just text. Texting is fine, but FaceTime as well. Make sure that you interact with people and build that muscle too.
Yes, Shawnita, answer your telephone when I call.
I'm bad for that.
I will. I do.
No, you don't. Shawnita is really good at this. She goes home and she cuts the world out. I really do admire that.
Yeah, I
I,
feel that. Yeah.
she I admire that. Um, it is healthy mentally. And she does answer the phone. We're all glad. But and I used to have another coworker who's like, don't call me after 4. Don't call me on the weekends. It's my time. And there's a lot of wisdom to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let me wrap this up. I do want to point out one other thing. I want to make sure all of our listeners are familiar with 988. If you're texting, talking to somebody in crisis, you should always refer them to 988, which is the national hotline for those in crisis. This session has reminded us of something powerful, that our teens are growing up in a world that asks so much of them. But when caring adults show up, listen, work together, we create space where healing can happen and hope can grow. If you're a teenager listening, please hear this clearly. You matter. What you're feeling matters. There's no shame in struggling, and there is incredible strength in reaching out for help. And to parents, grandparents, teachers, community partners, thank you for being a part of the solution. Cliff, to borrow your company's slogan, together we can rewrite tomorrow. Until next month, have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Have a great day.